What is going on, YouTube? Welcome to the Living Freed channel. My name is Tyler Freed, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about how I was able to buy 3 semi-trucks by the age of 30, and I have done it within 6 years of when I started to drive in trucking. And so if you're new to the channel, I appreciate you for being here, especially if you're somebody that is looking at this as a long-term career path. If you're somebody that's already in trucking, but you're not getting anywhere with trucking, this is a great video for you. If you're somebody that's not even wanting to get into the trucking business and you're doing something else, this is a great video for you as well, because what I'm going to talk about, the principles I'm going to be talking about in this video, the process that I took to get to this point, you could really apply this to any career, really. You can. It's not really just trucking you can do this, but I'm going to talk about it in the perspective of getting into trucking and the process of which got me to this point. Because why? Well, because my channel is about how I'm using trucking to create financial independence. So I'm going to talk about, where I started, pretty much just my entire journey up until this point and how I got to where I got. I'll talk about some of the things that, I originally set out to want to do, and some things that changed along the way. Like, the overall plan never really changed for me, but the certain details did change. We're human beings. Sometimes we make a plan and we're going to do it this way, but then we figure out, hey, it's probably better to do it that way. But the overall goal and the overall, place you're trying to get to hasn't changed, but some of the details can change. So I'll get into some of that, because I've been asked before, do you have any regrets with your trucking career? Do you wish you would have done things differently? Make a video about that. Well, I'm just going to talk about, since I haven't posted in a while, for those of you that don't know, the last month I've just been super busy. I bought an extra truck, so I own a truck. I bought another one. I had to find a driver, get him all set up to driving that second truck, and now I'm in the process of buying a third one, and I already have a driver, by the way. For all of you that sent me your resumes, I really appreciate you for reaching out. And for those of you that I didn't get back to, if I add another truck later this year, I'll reach directly out to you. I won't even really post a video. I'll contact you. If I haven't reached back out to you, it's because I already found a driver for the third truck. But I'll reach back out to you later on this year and see if you're still interested, and do that. But I really appreciate y'all for sending your resumes and everything like that. But I've just been really busy with getting my small fleet going, right? And so I really haven't had time to make a video, but I do want to make this video because I think a lot of people want to know, like, hey man, how did you do that? Like, in 6 years, how were you able to scale to that? And you only became an owner operator a year ago. I know that's what a lot of people are thinking. Well, you only became an owner operator a year ago. How have you gone from 1 to 3 in a year, right? How have you done that? So I'm going to talk about that. So first, I'm going to go to the very beginning. This is where most drivers start out. This is where I started out. Most people are going to come into trucking and they're not going to have any money, right? And so when I came into trucking, I was able to pay for the CDL school and not have any debt at all. I didn't owe the company anything. The only thing I had to do was stay a year with the company, and if I didn't stay a year, I would have to owe them like $2,000. But that was just how it was set up. Like, I paid for everything else out of pocket, but that was part of the contract where it's like, hey, you got to stay with us a year or you owe this money. So I started out at Millis Transfer, and they're a company based out of Wisconsin. A lot of you know who they are. A lot of you that watch me also work at Millis and have been watching me since I worked at Millis. Because when I first started this channel, that's where I was. And where my channel really began to kind of take off and people began to kind of know me was when I was training at Millis. And so then I left Millis and went to Crete. And that's where I've been for the last couple of years, both company and owner operator. But anyway, I started about 6 years ago. And I've been driving, I've been driving about 6 years and a few months actually, to where I actually started out solo. But I started at Millis. I stayed with them for about 3 years, and then I went to Crete, and I drove for them for about 2 as a company driver, and then last year became an owner-operator, and have been driving as an owner-operator since May of last year. And now I am a fleet owner with Crete. And so I bought another truck, so that made me a fleet owner. I already have that driver in the truck like I alluded to, and I'm about to add a third one. And yeah, that's where I'm at. So that's just my story, just a quick summary of where I started, where I am now. And how did I get to the point where I was able to buy 3 trucks? Well, it's very simple, very simple. When I first started out in trucking, I had a goal of, I wanted to get into this business, and because I knew you could make good money right away. I knew, like to me, $70,000 a year before I got into trucking was good money. That was really good money when I started. I'm like, man, I'm used to making, 35, 40,000 a year. If I can make 70, man, I can save 30, 40 grand a year. That was my mindset, right? I mean, I was even saving money on 35,000 a year. I'm like, dude, I could save half of my income even if I only make 70 as a company driver. And so, the money really drew me into trucking. And then I learned about, like, hey, if you want, you can become an owner operator, and they make really good money if you do it the right way. And then if I want to, grow a business, I could, grow a fleet. I could do that with a larger company like I'm doing now, or I could go get my own authority and start my own carrier entirely. That I just had like a lot of things that fascinated me about the trucking business. I love the fact that the trucking business isn't going anywhere. I loved that. I liked that, hey, this is a necessity business. Like, no matter what's happening in the world, no matter what's happening with the economy, it doesn't really matter. Trucking is going to keep moving. Yeah, we'll have our slow periods. We'll have those times where, freight's really great and there's a high abundance of freight. And then we'll have the times where, hey, freight's kind of scarce. Like, the rates aren't that good, yada, yada, yada. But over time, it's pretty steady. It's pretty steady. I mean, people have to eat. People need clothes. People need stuff for their houses. People constantly need trucks to move and transport goods all over the country and really all over the world. Really, trucking's not just, here in the United States. It's all over the world, but particularly here in the U.S., right, where I live and where I truck. That's how it is, man. We as truck drivers keep this economy moving. And so I loved that. It's like, man, that's that job security. As long as I have a CDL, forget owning a business, as long as I have that CDL and I'm willing to get out there and drive, there's always going to be a job for me, right? I liked that aspect. And then I also like the security of, hey, if I start a business in this industry, it's tried and true. Like I said, it's steady. I mean, yeah, there's bad times, there's hard times, but you always have work, right? And so that really drew me in to trucking, the income potential as a company driver, the ability to start a business and grow a business, and also kind of that security of the industry itself as far as it being steady. And I like that. Like, if I'm going to invest money in a business that I'm controlling, I like that steady. I like the fact that it's a necessity business and not something like, real speculative, right? And so that's what drew me in, right? And so I'm like, okay, I can make good money starting out. I could save half of that income every single year. And then what I did, look, when I started out at Millis, my first year, I made about $60,000. And right off the jump, I was out of debt when I first started. I maybe had a few $1,000s saved, but I started saving 50 to 60% of my income right off the bat. And, the first year I made 60, but the second year I made like $85,000, $90,000. And I didn't stop saving 50, 60% of my income. Millis would give bonuses. And when they gave bonuses, hey, I would put 100% of that bonus away. Crete, they gave bonuses when I drove for them. I put 100% of that mileage bonus away at Crete for the last couple years. I did that. And so, I saved 50% of every single check that I made, sometimes even more, honestly. I mean, like, there was a point when I first started in the first year, my wife came out with me over the road for like 6 months, and I saved a lot more than 50% of my income then. And, but for the most part, I've been sticking to half of my check. Hey, I put that away. And what I did was I invested that money, and I've talked about this before. I invested that money in a low-cost index fund, and that's what I bought. And so, I just dollar cost averaged into the stock market over the last 5 to 6 years, and it turned into pretty much a multiple six-figure net worth in the stock market. And so what ended up happening is I knew I wanted to start a business, but I also have that goal of, and I've talked about it, I've had that goal of, hey, I want to use trucking to be able to retire early, right? I want to use trucking to be able to have, investments to where I could quit working and still pay all my bills and have that freedom. So I'm using trucking to do that. I'm not just using trucking to start a business and grow a business. I'm using trucking to create financial freedom. I'm using the income from trucking to invest in assets that'll pay me dividends over time and go up in value over time, right? But, so that's what I did. 50 to 60% of my income the last 5 years. Then I bought a truck, and I didn't change that. When I bought the truck last year in May, look, I worked my face off. I worked my face off all the way up until like Christmas time this year. And that's whenever I moved from Texas to Arizona. But I worked my face off, and I saved everything I could. I paid myself way less money. When I bought that first truck, I paid myself way less money than I made as a company driver. I didn't pay myself a lot of money this last year, and I just piled away as much money as I could to buy this second truck. Now, when I cashed out some of my stocks to start this business, I had enough money to pay for one truck in cash, and I had enough money for another truck, but I didn't have an emergency fund for the truck. And for those of you that know, I always preach pay cash and have about a $25,000 to $30,000 emergency fund. If you want to be an owner operator, that's my recommendation. You don't have to do that. That's just what I do, right? Be able to pay cash and have that emergency fund. Well, I had enough money to pay cash and buy another one and an emergency fund for the first truck. So I didn't do that. I was like, no, I don't have an emergency fund for a second truck. Also, I didn't know what I was doing yet. I'm like, no, I'm not going to go buy 2 trucks at once and start out. I'm going to buy one, and then I'm going to prove to myself that I can be successful as a solo owner operator for a year. And that is what I did. I bought that truck and I just ran, and I learned as much as I could. I learned a lot. I had a ton of repairs I had to do. I've just learned a lot of things over the last year. And I say, even with all the repairs and everything, and those were hard to deal with, I still was able to save a ton of money. Now, I did have a really good, tax deduction too. In the first year when you buy a truck, you're going to get to depreciate 68% of that vehicle's value. So that really helps you out with your tax liability in your first year when you buy a truck. And so that allowed me to save a lot more money by having that tax deduction and being able to save for this second truck. And so, but I already had, like I said, enough money to buy another one when I first started. So really what happened is the money I made from this truck, I was able to save and buy the second truck with what I made as an owner operator this last year. And then I already had, money for another one when I first started. And so, once I felt confident in my ability to, be able to be profitable and buy another truck and be able to be profitable if I put another driver in it. Once I was confident with becoming an employer and going through that process, I'm like, hey, I've already got this second driver. He seems like he's going to be really good, be really profitable. Well, hey, I've got the money. You know what? I might as well get a third truck. And that's what I'm doing now. But what did I do? Moral of the story is I had a plan. I knew I wanted to invest in the stock market for my income from trucking. I knew I wanted to start a business. I knew I wanted to grow a business. And that's what I've done. It's that simple. I just sacrificed a ton. And I'm not going to lie. Like, I have had no life for the last 6 years. I've had no life, really. I mean, I've missed out on all kinds of fun things with family. It's been really tough. My wife, I got to thank her, to be honest with you, because for her standing by my side the last 6 years and to deal with the sacrifice that we've had to make to get to this point, she's the number one, person in my life who I appreciate for sticking with me through all of this to get to this point, to be honest with you. Because without her, I actually wouldn't be where I'm at. So I got to give a lot of credit to her. And it's been tough, man. It's been tough, especially, my son, he's about to turn 3. It's tough for me to still go out here and work like I do and be away from him. That kills me. I'm not going to lie, that kills me. But I have a place I need to get to and get my family to. And so I've made a lot of sacrifice. Moral of the story, and y'all don't have to do this. Look, I just want to share my story and kind of open up with how I'm thinking and, what I've done to get to this point. But let me tell you, if you're somebody that's like, man, I don't want to sacrifice like that, you don't have to. Just get into trucking, get a really good paying job, and invest your money. As long as you're managing your money right, if you can make 90 to 100,000 a year and you can max out your 401k, your Roth IRA, invest more into a brokerage, if you can save 25 to 30% of your income, even, you don't have to save half your income. You can save 25 to 30% of your income as just being a regular driver. And if you do that for 20 years as a truck driver, you'll be a multimillionaire. You don't have to go start a business. You don't have to be a fleet owner, none of that, because that's way harder than just being a really good driver and making as much money as you can with that. Or if you want to start a business, start a business. I'm not telling anybody what to do. I'm just telling you that how I got to this point was I pretty much had no life the last 6 years, and I saved everything that I could. And, I was an employee for most of that. For 5 of the years, I was an employee, and I didn't take any risks, really. I mean, yeah, I was invested in the stock market, but, low-cost index funds, they're not really that risky over the long run. I don't think they're really risky at all, personally. And that's what I did. And a lot of that savings that I accumulated did grow a lot because it was invested, right? So I did get all the growth. Whatever the S&P returned over the last 5 years is pretty much what my portfolio did, plus all the savings that I accumulated. And so what I did was like, okay, look, if I'm going to start a business, and I'm going to end with this. If I'm going to start a business, this was my mindset. I wanted to use that business to eventually get out of driving and run that business. So when I cashed out some of the money to become an owner-operator, that's why I cashed out enough to have a second truck, right? Because I knew, like, okay, once I master running one truck, and I feel confident to put a driver in another one, that's when I'll make that move and actually put the money into another truck. But I didn't want to stop there. If I'm going to add a second truck, I'm going to keep growing from there. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to build an actual asset. That's my goal with this business, is to build an actual company. And, I have a company. Yes, I'm leased on to Crete. I'm partnered with Crete, but I have no limits. I never say never on anything, right? I could eventually get my own authority. I could go lease on to someone else. I could stay with Crete, whatever. My goal now is I went from a truck driver to now I'm a truck driver and a business person and an investor. That's what I've always wanted to use trucking for. I love investing. I love math. I love numbers. I love growing. This is fun to me, really. This is fun to me. Yes, it's a lot of work and everything, but I've always wanted to become a full-time investor. That's what I love the most. That's why I talk about investing every video I do. That's why I talk about investing, because I wanted to become a full-time investor, and I knew with the income from trucking, what it could do for me if I was disciplined with that money and invested it wisely. I knew where I could end up if I just stuck with that plan and followed it, right? And so I'm going to end with this. I know I said I would, but I am going to end with this. Anybody watching this video, like I said, whether you're in trucking or you're in a completely different field, if you want to be successful at anything, you have to ignore 99% of the people in your industry, 99% of the people that you know. If I would have listened to 99% of the people that I know and who I told what I wanted to do when I first started out 6 years ago, they thought I was crazy. They thought, oh yeah, right. You especially, you know. But let me tell you, if you have a plan and you have the discipline to follow through with that plan and you stick with it and you don't quit when the going gets tough, because there's been a lot of really tough times for me, but I didn't quit. If you do that, you will have success over the long run. It's a long-term game too, by the way. You know, trucking, it doesn't matter what business it is. If you're going to be successful at any career, it's a long-term game. You need to give it 5-10 years before you reach the point where you can actually start making real money and actually making a huge difference. But you got to have a plan. You got to have a great strategy to execute that plan. And you have to stick with it. Like I said, it's all a mental game. Building wealth is all in the mind. It's not the investment. It's not whether you're in trucking or real estate or in stocks. It's about your plan and your strategy with the investment and what you know about the investment. That's what it is. So anyway, that's how I got to 3 trucks by the age of 30 and in 6 years of driving. And I plan on growing past that. For those of you, I want to end with this. For those of you that want to drive for me, like I said, if I add a 4th truck this year, I'll reach out to you and let you know that there's a driving position available. And if you don't want to take that driving position, you know, when I do have another truck and you've already moved on to another opportunity, well, then I'll make another video again, promoting another driving position like I did for the last 2. So anyway, that's my video for today. I am back to making content consistently again, now that I actually have the time to do it and and I actually feel like doing it, more work. But yeah, I'm back. And I really appreciate each and every one of you for subscribing. I appreciate each and every one of you that are new. God bless. Stay tuned for more videos like this in the future, and peace out.